Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's super weak response to the news that the International Criminal Court was implying that the democratic government of Israel and the terrorists of Hamas were kind of morally the same led to a huge backlash. Then, finally, on Wednesday, Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, not Albo, the Prime Minister, not Penny Wong, the Foreign Affairs Minister, no, Jimbo, the Treasurer, came out and said this.
The issuing of arrest warrants is fundamentally an issue for the ICC. We respect the very important role that the ICC has to play here. We're not party to those decisions or part of those decisions to pursue those arrest warrants. Our focus as Australians is we desperately need to see the end of the killing of innocent people in Gaza. We desperately need to see that. And so our efforts, our focus has been to use our voice in the international community to argue for a humanitarian ceasefire, to argue for the release of the hostages.
All that stuff is just too easy to say, folks. It all sounds so nice and right and good, but what does, quote, arguing for a humanitarian ceasefire, unquote, actually mean? Does that mean Israel has to put the lives of its own soldiers and sons at risk, and that it needs to give more time to Hamas to organise and regroup and plan counterattacks? How much does Israel actually have to do? When will we give them our unequivocal support to fight this vile enemy? All Hamas has to do to save the lives of innocent Gazans is to surrender and hand back the hostages. All the Arab world has to do to save innocent Gazans is open the Egyptian border to the refugees. We also now know there's plenty of tunnels between Rafah and Egypt. Surprise. There are also many, many ways that rich Arab oil states who are worried about Gazans could help them get out and provide asylum. Why is it always Israel's responsibility, even after the obscenity of October the 7th? I mean, is there no point at which we support our own liberal democratic world's culture anymore? At least Chalmers did fall into line with other world leaders on the moral equivalence nonsense of the ICC. Sort of.
There is no equivalence between Hamas, the terrorist organisation, and Israel. We have made it really clear in condemning the actions of Hamas on October 7. We've made it very clear that we want to see the hostages released, and we've made it really clear that we want to see the Israeli response comply completely with international humanitarian law.
The opposition leader, Peter Dutton, went a lot further and stronger and actually looked like a leader, all very quickly on Tuesday, calling the suggestion of an equivalence repugnant.
My view is that Australia should stand shoulder to shoulder with President Biden, and he's shown the strength of leadership to stand up against this equivalence, which is completely and utterly repugnant to compare the Israeli Prime Minister to a terrorist organisation leader and to not have some clarity in relation to it, I think is appalling. The Prime Minister squibbed it today when he was asked about this issue, and the Prime Minister had the opportunity at the ICC, where Australia was consulted in relation to this matter. They didn't weigh in and say that they were against this measure. Instead, they sat on the sideline and had nothing to say about it at all. Now, I don't know why the Prime Minister is not showing leadership at the moment on the economy. He's not showing leadership in relation to anti-Semitism, and he's tarnishing and damaging our international relationships with like-minded nations when he's not strong enough to stand up alongside President Biden. And I very strongly support the comments of Joe Biden today in relation to the ICC. It's an abomination, and it needs to be ceased.
Australia's Leader of the Opposition, Peter Dutton, there speaking like a leader on Tuesday, as any strong leader should have. Let's make sure those awful conspiracy theories about social media suppressing conservative and centre-right content is ended forever. Just hit the subscribe button down here and the subscribe button there if you like, if you prefer that one, and the little bell. The little bell's very important because that'll notify you when our content comes out. You can watch full episodes of The Other Side right here. Have a look at pressing that button too. I mean, there are so many buttons to subscribe. Just subscribe. We're keeping you up to date. The Other Side, all the news summary of the week without the woke.